फेस करने जाते हैं 30 हो जाती है। क्यों? क्योंकि लाइफ स्किल की कमी है, उनके पास गोल सेटिंग नहीं है, उनके पास ऑब्जेक्टिव नहीं है। तो ये कैरियर गाइडेंस और लाइफ स्किल ट्रेनिंग का जो पार्ट है, इट हैज टू बी स्टार्टेड फ्रॉम हाई स्कूल ओनली। जब बच्चा 10 तो 10वीं जमात में ही, हाई स्कूल में ही बच्चे को, क्योंकि 10th पास करते ही माँ बाप की उम्मीद बन जाती है कि वो बच्चा मैट्रिक हो गया, अब ये कुछ कमा के लाएगा। कैसे कमाएगा? स्किल हो तो कमाएगा। स्किल भी है तो इसीलिए 3 डायमेंशन प्रोजेक्ट होना चाहिए, जहां पर वोकेशनल एजुकेशन प्लस सॉफ्ट स्किल एंड एम्प्लॉयबिलिटी, ये सब होना चाहिए, और कैरियर गाइडेंस भी होना चाहिए, ताकि जब बच्चा बाहर निकले तो वो वर्ल्ड, अपने कंट्री की इकोनॉमी को सपोर्ट करने के लिए तैयार हो सके। थैंक यू वेरी मच।
Assalamualaikum and good afternoon to all of you. My topic today is the role of media in empowerment of women. The problem and issues concerning women are like octopus with its many flexible arms which entrap and suffocate its victim. In case of Indian Muslim women, these problems are multiplied. This is so because they share the general problems which other Indian women face, and at the same time they have their peculiar disadvantages. This is said by Ms. Hajra Kumar in her book, The Status of Women in India, Muslim women in India. A number of reports have concluded that Muslim women are the most deprived and marginalized. Muslims are the most deprived and marginalized communities in India. Indian Muslim women are often called minority within minority. I'll go to skip these all these and go to conclusion. Please, next slide, please. Lack of education has been identified by one and all as the single most important cause for the backwardness of Muslim women. Education is the greatest and only weapon through which women can rise up to claim their rightful place in the society. Significant improvement can come in their status only when Muslim women become aware of their social and economic and political rights guaranteed by Constitution as well as their religion. So mass media can play a very important role in bringing this awareness. The role media can play in empowering women. The media can fill the information gap. हम देखते हैं कि जो है कई स्कीम्स गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से चलाई जाती हैं, लेकिन ये ग्रास रूट लेवल तक पहुंच नहीं पाती हैं. तो मास मीडिया कैन फिल दिस गैप. The mass media can highlight Muslim women's problem, report news and stories from feminist perspective, produce and disseminate news and information affecting Muslim women, raise Muslim women's awareness regarding importance of education. It can launch campaign to guide them constitutional and legal and religious rights. It can sensitize government and society by publishing Muslim women-oriented studies and surveys. It can sensitize the community about Muslim men's role in Muslim women's issues. Because जब तक आप men को sensitize नहीं करेंगे, mainstreaming of women is impossible. जैसा कि हम सेमिनार्स अटेंड करते हैं, कलोकियम अटेंड करते हैं, और घर जाके जब ख़वातीन अपने राइट्स की बात करती हैं तो मर्द ये कहेंगे कि जो है विमेन सोशल वर्कर्स ने इनको वर्गलाया है और ये जो है बगावत पर उतर आई हैं, जबकि मेन को मालूम होना चाहिए कि ख़वातीन के कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल और रिलीजियस राइट्स क्या हैं, तभी मेनस्ट्रीमिंग ऑफ विमेन कुड बी पॉसिबल. With this note, I'd like to end because there was a time limit, so I will end with this note. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. Honorable Chair and Honorable Chairperson of National Commission for Women, Ms. Lalita Kumari Mangalam, eminent panelists on the dais and off the dais, the teachers, the students of this great university. बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया एक बार फिर से मौका देने का, आपके रूबरू होने का. और जैसा कि खलीकुर रहमान साहब ने कहा कि हैदराबाद बार बार बुलाता है हमको. पिछले साल डॉक्टर शाहिदा ने बताया था, पिछले साल वी डिड वॉइस ऑफ वॉइसलेस, और वहाँ पर तकरीबन 3 मुद्दों पे बहुत फोकस डिस्कशन हुआ था. कुछ क्लैरिफिकेशंस मुझे लगता है कि ज़रूरी है कि मैं यहाँ पर दूँ, क्योंकि बहुत सारे स्पीकर्स ने एक बात कही कि मेन स्ट्रीमिंग की बात क्यों की जा रही है मुस्लिम विमेन की. वी आर ऑलरेडी इन द मेन स्ट्रीम. वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट मेन स्ट्रीमिंग the women's issues, Muslim women issues. I think that is one point that you need to understand. Issues को जब तक हम mainstream नहीं करेंगे, जब तक हम problems को समझेंगे नहीं, हम address कैसे करेंगे? एंड बहुत छोटी छोटी बातें मैं बताकर कुछ कहना चाहती हूँ. फॉर एग्जांपल लास्ट ईयर जब मैं आई थी और ओल्ड सिटी गई थी, कुछ औरतों से मेरी बात हुई थी, तो एक बहुत मुद्दे की बात निकल कर आई. बोली कि फॉर एग्जांपल डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस है, एक्ट है, वो आपको राइट टू रेजिडेंस देता है. वो बोली कि जब हमारा शौहर दूसरी शादी करके एक दूसरी बीवी लाके घर में रख देता है और हमें निकाल देता है 4 बच्चों के साथ, और हम जाते हैं पुलिस स्टेशन, तो पुलिस वाला हमसे कहता है कि बीबी हम आपके लिए कुछ नहीं कर सकते, क्योंकि आपके यहाँ तो ऐसा होता है, दूसरी शादी होती है, तो हम आपको घर में वापस नहीं भेज सकते, हमें नहीं पता आपके साथ करना क्या है. दिस इज़ वन प्रॉब्लम विच द ग्रास रूट वुमेन एक्चुअली केम अप विद. और ऐसी बहुत सैकड़ों औरतें थी जिन्होंने ये बात कही. तो अब सवाल ये उठता है कि ये मुद्दा क्या है. अगर हमारा जो इस्लामिक इशू है या शरिया इशू है, जो हमारे पर्सनल लॉज के इशू हैं, या हमारे दीन से रिलेटेड जो इश्यूज़ हैं, अगर उनको जो बाकी देश के लोग हैं अगर वो समझेंगे नहीं, तो हमारे प्रॉब्लम्स को एड्रेस कैसे करेंगे. वन. द सेकेंड थिंग इज दैट मेन स्ट्रीमिंग क्यों हो रही है, सिर्फ मुस्लिम वुमेन की नहीं हो रही है. वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट दलित वुमेन, वी आर टॉकिंग अबाउट ऑल मार्जिनलाइज सेक्शन ऑफ द सोसाइटी. बट बिकॉज यहाँ पर हम यूनिवर्सिटी में आए, सो वी थॉट वी वुड बी टॉकिंग अबाउट मुस्लिम वुमेन. बट ऐसा भी नहीं है कि राष्ट्रीय महिला आयोग सिर्फ मुस्लिम वुमेन की मेन स्ट्रीमिंग की बात कर रहा है. NCW इज नॉट अबाउट मुस्लिम वुमेन और हिंदू वुमेन और सिख वुमेन और क्रिश्चियन वुमेन. इट इज अबाउट इंडियन वुमेन. But we also need to understand that Indian women are not just Indian women. They are tribal women, there are Dalit women, there are so many other categories in which women are already divided or already are living, and therefore their situations are different. And to understand those situations and then address those situations is very, very important. When we envisaged this, our chairperson, the moment she assumed the chair, the first thing that she said to me, Shamina, I want to understand and give solutions to the problems. And I think applaud to her, because that was something which I always wanted to work. Only last year when I came, it was again the same thing which brought me here. And once again when we are here, and I requested Professor Amina, that we want to have focused discussion, probably a round table. It is better that if we have a round table discussion where we talk about what are the solutions. All of us know the problems, because women's problems are universal, irrespective of whether she is living on a mountain or whether she is living on a plain, whether she is living in a desert or whether she is Muslim or whether she is Hindu. The problems are universal, but yet because of their religious identities or their geographical identities, the solutions might be different. So we have to look into the solutions which could be different, and that is why perhaps, to the best of my understanding, we are here today. And after this also, this dialogue is not going to end maybe in half an hour. I request all the eminent panelists, all the speakers, and anybody in that, for that matter, in this house, कि अगर आपके पास solutions हैं, what the government is supposed to do, be it center, be it state, what the NGOs are supposed to do, whether they are working at a very small area or whether they are working at the national level. Because even when I talk about NGOs, for that matter, sitting in Delhi, I don't find many NGOs who are working specifically towards the cause of minority women, be it Sikh women, be it Jain women. I'll quote an example. While the expert committee of the minority women, not even a single organization came forward which said that I work for the women belonging to the Jain community. We could not find a single organization. So it's not just about one community. It's about several other communities and women living in those communities. Gheotism is talked about. It's not just about the colonies where these women are living. It is also about the NGOs which are working only with this cause. We have to mainstream the women with the other, and there are certain best practices. For example, to quote, there are certain organizations which are working in a very productive manner, and they are getting some good results. Can we actually share those best practices and save time in reinventing the wheel and maybe trying to do something there in UP or maybe in Bihar or maybe in some corner of Rajasthan? So when we look towards the south, especially I would say here categorically, we know that we are going to get some good results in terms of best practices. We know that in Kerala there are organizations which are working in a very good functional manner as far as Muslim women is concerned, because yes, there is a huge population there. We know that when it comes to Andhra Pradesh, we know that there are very serious organizations. And come what may, I don't shy of saying that despite of the fact that I come from UP, that when we talk about South, there's a lot of seriousness, no matter what issue you talk about. There's a lot of commitment and dedication which we lack in the North. So we have started this, and with the directions of the Honorable Chairperson, it is not just one dialogue. We are having a series of 6 dialogues in 2 months. The dates have been decided, ranging from Kolkata to Kerala to Andhra Pradesh to Delhi to, for that matter, we are trying to have it everywhere and come out with solid recommendations and best practices which can be then taken on the right platform, which the chairperson is going to hopefully take and get some solutions, get some practical solutions. Enough of talking, lip service has been done now. It's time to act. And as a Muslim woman, not as a member of the National Commission for Women, I feel very strongly that yes, there is a huge gap. There is a huge gap which needs to be filled. And as a responsible member of the NCW, I feel it's my responsibility and duty to ensure that this gap is filled to a certain amount of extent. And for that, all of you have great expertise. Only request is, because again today I found out that a lot of discussions were again problems and problems and problems. All of us know the problems, and as I said, problems are universal. So let us just focus on maybe one solution, maybe 2 solutions. But we need to have those solutions, and solutions could not be restricted only to the government, but also to the civil societies, also to the NGOs, also to the activists. And it's time for now talk about individual social responsibility. When we are talking about CSR so much, which is corporate social responsibility, I personally advocate ISR, which is individual social responsibility. What is my responsibility towards my people? And if I start, one speaker said, I believe, that if we just start working in our own families, in our own extended families, first cousins, second cousins, and then our neighborhood, which even Islam preaches that first you need to look into your families, then your neighborhood, and then the community. So if we just start practicing that in terms of empowering, in terms of mentoring, as somebody said that children do not know what to do after 10th. There are so many already empowered Muslim, or not only Muslims, but non-Muslims also, youth who know how they have achieved what they have achieved, whether it's an IAS officer or an IPS officer, or maybe an IITN or an IIM product. If he can pick maybe just one student and say, okay, I'll mentor you right from class 8th, and I will ensure that in 5 years you reach somewhere, I think our half job is going to be done, because it's we who have to take the first step. Yes, the government has the responsibility. Yes, the states have their responsibilities. We need to question them, but for questioning them, we need to have that awareness. We need to know what is available. Constitution of India has given us equal rights. Constitution of India never says that no, this scheme is for only Muslims and this scheme is only for Hindus, or this program or this facility is only for this particular community, for that matter, even Government of India. It's only a matter of accessing and having knowledge to those programs. And I think as responsible Indians, it is our responsibility to ensure that all programs and policies of the Government of India, as well as the state government, reaches out to the last person sitting in the queue. And for that, we need to have collaborative effort. We need to really ensure that all those who are working in their own little or big capacities in wherever they are, whether it is West Bengal or whether it is Gujarat or whether it is Kerala or whether it is Uttar Pradesh, we all do hand holdings of ourselves first. We need to know what we are doing and we need to share it across so that more people are inspired. Thank you very much, and I also want to thank our chairperson, especially NCW, because I know that this is a cause that she's working for, and I'm very hopeful that there's going to be something really very positive which is going to come out of this culmination of 2 months. Thank you.
We have all been waiting to hear her. She has been listening very carefully, and it would be very interesting to know, what she has to say. No time schedule.
Namaskar, salam alaikum, and good afternoon to everybody. First, I'd like to say that, Shamina goes around always thanking me, but it's not just me who has done this. The whole commission is very committed on this, and it's unfair to sort of, for me not to acknowledge the amount of work that Shamina has also put in this. It's not a mutual admiration society. I'm just telling the truth. After that very passionate speech by Shamina, there's very little I can say that's not going to make you all feel more hungry than you already must be feeling, because it's 1 o'clock. But I'd like to just say a few things. One is that I agree with what Shamina said, that the problems of women are similar across communities, across countries, across religions. It doesn't make a difference if one is a Hindu or a Muslim or a Christian, or you live in India, or you live in Australia, or you live anywhere else, in the Middle East or anywhere else. Women have very similar problems. And again, I'd like to say that, please don't get offended when one talks about the problems of Muslim women. We have been talking about the problems of women across communities. It's not any religion that marginalizes women, any religion across the world. It is in the practice of the religion that mistakes happen. And that is a very human fault. Again, there are mistakes made in the practice of every religion. I'm not talking here as a politician, because I'm not here as a politician. Fortunately for me, I come from a family which doesn't think religion is very important at all, but then many people here may not agree with me. Human beings are human beings everywhere, whether it's in India, whether it's in the United States of America, whether it's in some country whose name we don't even know. The problem with the non-inclusion of women, let's not think of just Muslim women at the moment. The problem of non-inclusion of women, I'm not even talking about mainstreaming. The problem is that women are not included in many aspects of life that they should be included, whether it is education. In India, you start with just nutrition. Let me start talking about Muslim or Hindus or Christians. You just start looking at nutrition. In India, women don't get the nutrition they deserve. In India, women do not get educated as much as they should be. In India, they don't get the recognition that they work as hard, if not harder, than most men in this country. Whether it's in the northeast, whether it's in the south, whether it's in the east of India, in the north, whatever. There is no financial value put on the amount of work that women do. Internationally, the figure is that women do about 70% of the work, and they get hardly 1% of salary earned, internationally. Also, they own less than 10% of property. Again, throughout the world, India is no different. I'm not saying immediately transfer all the property into the women's names, regardless of whether they are Muslim or from any other religion. All I'm saying is that what all women deserve is equal opportunity. That's all. Men and women can never be equal. No man is equal. No two human beings are equal. Some will be better than others. Some will be less than others. Again, this has nothing to do with religion or even gender. Actually, what we are here today is to address the gender imbalance of Muslim women. Gender imbalance exists across the board. I'm not saying that I was one of those lucky women. I always say it. I was born into a family where we were never taught that girls cannot achieve what they want to do. You wanted to be a housewife, you were allowed, you were encouraged to do that. You wanted to go and study and get into the foreign services or the administrative services, you were allowed to do that. You wanted to be a sports person, we were allowed to do that. You wanted to be a teacher or a politician, we were never told, ever. I was never told from the time I was born, and I was the last of 3 children, the second daughter. My father always taught us that my girls have to study more than my boys. He would always make a point of saying this to us, and it turned out that way. My brother was a very well-known man, but my sister and I are better qualified education-wise than he was. But the point is that when we talk about women, we automatically talk first of the problems that they face. Why don't we talk about the talent that women have? Women are intrinsically talented. One of the earlier speakers spoke about the biology of a woman that holds her back sometimes. What we must recognize is it is this biology that makes us mothers. It is this biology that makes us so strong. It is this biology on the basis of which life continues on this earth. If there weren't women, life would die out. This is something that must be understood. When you educate a woman, when you allow a woman to come forward and to grow, according to her own talent, according to whatever may be her own opportunities, etc., you don't just allow the woman to grow, you allow her whole family to grow. Women are naturally inclusive. It is almost part of our genes that for us, it's not important. We are the least important people to ourselves. And perhaps this is a mistake that all women make. we must also learn to make ourselves important. I'm not saying merely as mothers or sisters or friends or even as educators, but also as women. And the young girl whose contact details I've asked for, Rafia, if I've pronounced her name properly, she was right when she said that, it's not that perhaps it's become a part of life in this country and in many other countries where women are held back giving all sorts of excuses. She's teased on the way to school, so how can we send her to school? Somebody else talked of the need for value education. Now, this is something that I believed in very, very passionately. The moment you say value education, people get irritated. They say, no, what is this? We already have values. The fact is that part of life skill education must be value education. Every religion talks about values, and they talk about the same values: integrity, honesty, mutual respect, talent, to be able to tell the truth, so many things. Every religion talks about it. But unfortunately, today our school system has forgotten to teach these things to our children. According to me, you need to teach not from the age of 12 or 13, but from the age of 4 or 5. I studied in a Christian institution for the first 8 years of my life. Till today, I remember the prayers that were taught to us. Christian schools, if you're a Christian, you have to go for catechism. If you're not, you go for moral science classes. It used to be called moral science in those days. I don't know what it's called nowadays. But every school should have these things, because unconsciously we absorb things. It's like playing games. You learn to work as a team. You learn to understand how you can bond together. Aside from merely education, in schools we foster so much competition between students. We don't teach them to work together as a unit. And that has done a lot of damage to our country. We have forgotten to teach both boys and girls that you must mutually respect each other. Where there is a lack of respect, there is always problems that we face today, like we face violence against women. Again, violence against women, unfortunately, is universal. It doesn't matter whether what religion you're born into, it doesn't matter across class, caste, even the economic divide is bridged there. Probably the only place where it doesn't make a difference if you're in a rich or a poor family or a middle class family. The woman still gets bashed up. And this is something that must be taught across the board. Today, because as Shamina ji said, since we are standing in a Muslim university, we are talking about the problems of specifically Muslim women. But from everything that I have heard, most of the problems are identical to the women that we have worked with, say, that we worked with yesterday, or we are going to be talking to tomorrow. However, because there are also religious lines that are drawn in every community, there are some solutions that have to be offered to you specifically. How to include Muslim women in ICT skilling, that is in information and communication technology skilling. Every woman, regardless of age nowadays, it's too loud? Achha, okay. Every woman nowadays has a mobile phone. We can use that for skilling. We can use that for inclusion. These are programs that are now being developed. The Indian government has come up with this huge program for skilling, and that is why when in the morning I met some of the speakers, I asked them, what would you suggest? How do we go about it? What is it that Muslim women want in terms of whether it's education? Again, one of the students had mentioned that you lack confidence. Employability is very poor. And unless you have economic independence, or at least you are able to stand on your own feet, it is almost impossible to be empowered. Again, it doesn't matter if you're a man or a woman. Even men who are not employable, they are normally disempowered. Comparatively, compared to other men from our own country, they are less empowered than them. And because women traditionally have not left their homes to come out and look for work, and it's, again, I keep saying it, I think maybe you're fed up of hearing it, this is not just Muslim women, this is across the board, all religions. Because of that, women are held back. There are certain, for example, in certain religions, women have particular problems in terms of, say, caste. In certain religions, maybe women have certain problems, maybe to do with parda. I'm not saying parda is good or bad. I'm not here to pass my personal opinion, to give my personal opinion on anything. I'm here as the head of a commission that is supposed to address problems of women, especially problems of violence against women. You know, when a woman is raped, it doesn't matter what religion she is. She's still raped. She has to live with that for the rest of her life. We had a program with acid victim survivors just a couple of days ago on Saturday. It didn't nobody bothered to ask them what religion you're from, because it doesn't matter. Her life is destroyed, and their life is destroyed in such a way that every day for them is a living hell. And we have to come up with specific solutions for women like that, which is also why we decided that we have to talk to members of the minority communities. It's not just Muslim women. We've started with you, but I'm starting to talk with the Christian women also. Again, there I'm sure I'll get the feeling that they feel they're being targeted. It's not. Every woman must have a chance to grow into her own potential. The lucky ones across the board have it. People like me, like Shamina, we are the lucky women in this country. We have had an opportunity, and many of us have done well because we've been given that opportunity. But many equally, if not more talented and resourceful women have not been given the opportunity, so they haven't grown. This is what I'm saying. And unless 50% of the population in this country grows, where is this country going to grow? You can be as industrially developed as you want. If women are going to be left behind, the country will lag behind. This is what everybody must understand. But men must also be equal partners. We can't only, that's why I'm very glad to see there are more men in this room than women. Men must be partners. Historically, the women's movement has left men out, and that has created a lot of problems today. We need to bring men on board. Please understand that we are not saying you're at blame for everything. Part of it, yes, but equally women are also to blame. I always say that mothers-in-law are as bad as sometimes the fathers-in-law. Mothers-in-law also hold back their daughters-in-law. And again, this is nothing to do with religion. Huh? This is across the board. So both women and men must take responsibility. In some places, because women are less empowered, the men have a stronger say. So maybe there the men are more responsible. But there are also places and occasions, like somebody was talking about female police persons. I agree with it. Police women are as bad towards women as police men are. In Tamil Nadu, we have all women police stations. They're not all that great. I have myself faced problems, I didn't go to file an FIR for myself, but for other people, because I had run an NGO since 92. So we've been doing a lot of work. I did a lot of work in HIV AIDS. So we worked with a lot of sex workers. I have myself found that the women policemen are more judgmental sometimes than the men. I have found it easier to reason with the policemen than the policewomen at times. But there are also brilliant policewomen and men. The thing is that we, instead of, like Shamina said, instead of merely looking at our problems, the time has come for also to start looking at solutions for our problems. Every one of us has the capacity to come up with some idea or the other which can be a solution. That is what I want really out of this meeting. All of you who's presented papers, please send me solutions, because that is what I can take forward. Everybody more or less knows women face violence, they are not given education opportunities, they need social and family support, etc. How do we get that? How do we achieve that? Sometimes you have to talk extremely bluntly in order to get your point across. Sometimes you have to do it, in Hindi se say, tedi ungli or seedhi ungli. Kahin tedi ungli ki zarurat hai, kahin seedhi ungli se kaam hota hai. Chal jata hai, matlab kaam ho jata hai. So, I'm trying to say that we need solutions. And women have to be included in, whether you want to call it the mainstream or have to be empowered. These are just words. Ultimately, women must also have equal access and equal opportunity. These are the two most important points. Opportunities given to women must be equal as to what is given to men, or boys, girls, whatever. Also, they must have equal access, especially to things like education, to begin with life itself, then nutrition, and then education, and then finance. They have to be skilled so that they can stand on their own feet. They have the confidence to be able to ask for what they think is their right. They have to have the skilling to be able to use, to put those rights to good use. to transform the opportunity they have been given into empowerment. Some of it lies in our own hands, the individual's hands, but some, if we all stick together and we come up with the solutions and see that they are pushed through. And I promise to do as much as I can, not only individually, but also as chairperson of the National Commission of Women, along with my colleagues. I can't do it alone, but I have a good set of colleagues. So along with my colleagues, we will see that, ultimately what is it about? It's about justice to all. And the best form of justice is empowerment. So please, thank you all very much for having the patience to sit through this program. Thank you for also all of you from your presentations. And I would really like that next time we hear more young voices. The experts, I mean, with all due respect, even I am now, at an age where my daughters tell me that, Ma, you're ancient, not yet over the hill. So it's okay. So, but we really need to hear more young voices, both from the boys and the girls. The next time I'd request that I'd like to hear the male voice also, because they are equally important in this struggle or this effort or whatever you want to call it. And we will come back. Whether Shamina and I will come together or separately or other members will come, we will come back, because we have to take this dialogue forward. Thank you.
Today's discussion. A lot of points have been raised, and I would hope that the organizers would make a summary of some of the important issues and keep that, documented, because these were really important issues. But one thing which has been said many times, including the last speaker, is that these are universal. Problems are universal to women across the board, throughout the world. But then there are also some specific issues within